Assalamu alaikum. Sulaiman Rahim here. Welcome. Sulaiman Rahim, breaker of the seven seals, messenger of the covenant. Brothers and sisters, let's slay some demons. Another session of War Talk. War Talk. Our topic today is the Abomination of Desolation. 5 parts. So we're going to begin with the revealing of the sealed Bible. Let's see. Second here. "2,000 years ago, approximately, Prophet Jesus was given the so-called sealed Bible to the Europeans. That's the Adam that's talked about in the Bible. There's many iterations of Adam. That was the one that talks about that was raised up from the dust of the earth. That's the one that's in Genesis. Right? The last iteration of Adam is the one that's talked about in the Quran, that will be given rule, right, after they came out of the pit. So we're going back 2,000 years to try to bring you up to speed here, because that's where the AL-INJIL book of Revelation starts in chapter 20, 2,000 years ago. But a little background information. See, the universe expands and contracts. As the Quran tells us, all the energy that is currently out there used to be in here. See, used to be the atmosphere of the earth. And then we spread the heavens out, that energy, and made the galaxies, the planets, all the things you see out there. As this process took place, there was less energy here left on the earth. See? So we have less and less energy until the universe reaches full extension, then there's very little energy. So we start suffering energy deprivation because we did not have enough energy to maintain civilization. Period. Energy deprivation. So to solve that problem, we allowed a scientist called Dr. Yakub to graft a graft, right? Well, I guess you call it a streamed down version of us, right? See? With no accessory, so to speak, right? So in other words, if we look at it like we're Lamborghinis, right? So he took and produced a Volkswagen Beetle, right? Which is a grafted version of us, right? But doesn't have all the accessories. But it doesn't require as much energy as the Lamborghini. It doesn't require as much maintenance, so forth, so on. So therefore, this being, right, that was made 6,000 years ago, that's the first iteration of Adam, right, did not suffer energy deprivation because they did not need as much energy as we needed, because all the energy we had, it wasn't even enough to maintain ourselves. So we lost control of our civilization, even lost control of ourselves. See? But Adam now suffering energy deprivation, but he's a weaker person, weaker and wicked. That's where the word wicked comes from. See, he's a wicked person, but he had power, right? He had external energy, because we had no external energy. We only had internal energy, and we didn't have enough even to maintain us. So internally, so we lost control of ourselves, lost control of our civilization, lost control of it all. So we decided that it'd be better a bad civilization than no civilization at all. Bad water is better than no water. That's the decision that was made. And the nations, it was 3 nations at that time. They all came out from different, all 3 understood the problem, but all 3 came with different solutions to that problem. Okay. So Dr. Shabazz decided to take the problem head on. See, is to make us strong as possible. Because he was playing a long game. He says, he's thinking, what's going to happen at the end when our energy starts returning, when the universe starts contracting, and our energy returns to us. See, what would be the situation at that time? He was thinking end game. See, so that's the decision he made. So we ended up moving into Africa. We was kicked out of Asia, our original home, Arabia. We moved into what you call Africa now, right? That caused some conflicts. That's not going to go into that right now. And at that point, he started. He started enhancing us as much as possible, right? In other words, he reversed. He took and encouraged the stronger genes and discouraged the weaker genes. Where Dr. Yakub just did the opposite. So Dr. Yakub's creates a stripped down version of us. See? But what he did, what Dr. Shabazz did with us, right, is made the stronger. In other words, he took and just got rid of everything that just kept it stronger. He emphasized the stronger genes. So he ended up with what we refer to as nappy hair, darker skin, so forth and so on. That's the background. So, that gets back to the Bible again. Now, the last 2,000, see, they had 6,000 years to rule. This is their last 2,000 years when this occurred. And they had to be given guidance to rule because you have the external energy, right? It's only power if you use it that way. It can be, it can be like a water hose, right? You can just throw water out, sprinkles, or you can put it in a hose, it comes out strong, right? So you have to control it, that energy, for it to manifest itself as power. You have to control that energy to manifest itself as power, to rule. So Adam, because being wicked, he would not normally rule. He'd have extra energy, but he would not normally rule because he's wicked, so he cannot control that energy to bring in the focus and into an expression of power. So that's the purpose of the Bible. To tell them, you can't go out there and be drinking, smoking, fornicating, kind of stuff, because you're just wasting your energy. You're just misusing it. See, you have to discipline yourself, right? So that you have energy manifest itself as power. It's not going to be power all by itself. You have to manifest itself as power. See? So that's why he was given the Bible, the sealed Bible. And that was his guidance. The Quran tells you that would be the guidance that would be given to him. So that was the guidance. Said you'll be given guidance because you'll be made to make mischief and shed blood. But here's the guidance, so you can rule. Because I'll make a ruler in the earth. This is the guidance so you can rule. See? So if you follow this guidance, you will maintain rule. If you don't, right, you lose your power. Because they had lost it previously before. They had 6,000 year history, but they had lost power for most of the first 4,000 years. This is their last chance. So they was given a book, right? And that was the guidance, and they're supposed to follow it. Okay, upon the departure of Jesus, they start falling back automatically, or almost overnight, because they was up against the Roman Empire. The Roman Empire was a vast empire that controlled most of Europe, right? A lot of the Middle East, some of North Africa, right? So-called vast. That was the most powerful, they say, in the world at that time. But that was really isolated to the European theater. So the the Roman Empire had a strong influence, right, on the people that was following Jesus' teaching. So much so that they actually overwhelmed it. Because most of the ideas that you see come out of Christianity, what they call Christianity today, came out of Roman culture. The holidays, right? The calendar, Augustus, right? Julius, Janus, they was named after Roman emperors. So what the Romans did, they had flipped this. They saw they could not control the Christians, but they weren't Christians at that time. Those are followers of Jesus, right? They claimed as followers of Jesus. So, like I said, if you can't beat them, join them. So they got control of it. So in other words, the emperor became the pope. And he's the pope now. See, you understand? Then he's got his little senate, but that's the monks. Then he got the priests. See, it's still the same system. It was just to change the name. See, so now they had control. And they used to say the Bible was their authority, but only one could read the Bible and interpret the Bible was them, because the normal public never even saw the Bible. Most people couldn't read anyway, and the only people was allowed to read the Bible, interpret the Bible, explain it was the monks and the priests. See, up under authority of the one person, the Pope. He's the only one. He's the emperor. See, so and that was all about idolatry. Same thing the Romans. Romans about idolatry. So they call themselves Catholics. So they weren't Christians. They were Catholics, and they was worshiping idols. See, so they took the idols they had of Jupiter and all these people, right? So now they put and they got Moses, Jesus, all these, See what I'm saying? That's all they did. So they were still worshiping the same thing. They just put the Bible. See, they were still playing Roman. They were still playing. They were still Roman lyrics. They were just playing, Jesus' song, music, but still Roman lyrics. So they fell. They lost their power. Worshiping idols and all that kind of stuff. They lost their power. Right? So when they lost their power, see, because they had initially they were strong, they had power. Then they lost it. They didn't have enough power to overcome They didn't overcome before they could overcome the Roman Empire. Like I said, joined them and took, got control of it. See, so then they was actually following still Romans. They was, just coloring, but it was still basically Roman Empire. So they fell. They started losing their power. So that brought the rise. This chapter 20 now. This brought the rise of the Islamic Empire 500 years later. This went on for about 500 years. In the 500 years, they almost lost all their power under the Pope. See, because they wasn't following Jesus. They wasn't doing the Sabbath. They changed all that. They was all back to Sunday, right? That's sun god. That's all Roman stuff. See, Saturday, Saturn. See, so they was all back to the Roman ideology, but they had the Bible stamp on it. So it's called Catholicism. It wasn't Christianity. This went on 500 years until their power diminished so much. Now it opened the door to the rise of the Arabs. So they had enough power to overcome them, so they was given guidance to maintain that power for 1,000 years. That's Prophet Muhammad. Gabriel came and gave them the Quran. They teach them how to focus their power to rule. If they followed the guidance of the Quran, they would have enough power to maintain their power, right, and maintain a civilization. Since Adam and Eve couldn't do it, they fell again. So it was given over to the Arabs. See, that's chapter 20 in the Angel, right, in Book of Revelations. That's what that's all about. So when they took power, they bowed up the European countries. See, they were still in the abyss. Europe was the abyss. And the chain that bound them in was Islamic Empire. And it bound them for 1,000 years. But during that 1,000 years, right, the Islamic Empire of Prophet Muhammad started waning because they didn't stay faithful to the Islamic, to teachers of Prophet Muhammad. They didn't stay faithful to it. The Sunnism is not faithful to Prophet Muhammad's teaching. They start losing power. They start losing power. See? And then came this person called Martin Luther. Not Martin Luther King, called Martin Luther. He was named after him, Martin Luther. And people like him. But primarily, he's the main figure that they focus on. He came along and broke away from the Pope. See? He broke away from that. They call it Protestant. That's where Protestants come from. Protested. They protested the Pope. See? So they broke away. See? And they started going following the basic tenements of the Bible as they thought was taught by Jesus. And then they started gaining power. See? The power started coming back to them. Because now they was using it, focused on the rules and laws and everything they thought they found in the Bible. See? Still had some Roman, like Sunday and all that kind of stuff. It's still tribal, but mostly, right? They broke away from the Pope, the idolatry and all that kind of stuff, right? And their power started coming back enough to overcome the Islamic Empire. That's the story of chapter 20. See? So they broke the 20,000 years ago, because this went on for 1,000 years. After 1,000 years, the Islamic Empire starts waning because they weren't faithful to the Quran, and the Europeans started turning back to what they thought was teaching of Jesus, and their power returned. And as their power returned, they overcame the Islamic Empire. That's the story. This is the end of part 1. That's the story of Gog. We're going to talk about Gog and Magog next, but that's the story of that's the story about the sealed Bible that was given to Jesus 2,000 years ago. So we stop here. That's the end of part 1. Part 2, Abomination of Desolation, Part 2. December 15th, 2021. Part 2, Abomination of Desolation. Sulaiman Rahim here. Messenger of the Covenant. Breaker of the 7 Seals. Now this segment we're going to talk about Gog and Magog. Now Gog and Magog, see something here. Now Gog and Magog, they are, with chapter 20, said they will go out and cover the whole earth. Now that's the last iteration of Adam and Eve. Gog and Magog are Adam and Eve. They're the last iteration of Adam and Eve. The last, right, manifestation of them, right? So Magog is Britain. That's Adam, because Adam was made from the dusty earth. Earth represents European countries. And Britain is not a European. It's the people inhabit Britain are Europeans, but Britain is not Europe. Britain is an island off the coast of Europe, and that's why it says Adam was made from the dusty earth, because the people that immigrated or was exiled or whatever into Britain, right, were the riffraff, the exiles or whatever, criminals from Europe. And they escaped into to Britain for whatever reason. That's what it says. It's Adam. And out of Adam's side, out of the side of Adam came Eve, right? That's America. Because that's how America came out of Britain, right? And this happened 500 years ago, right? That's the story of Adam and Eve. Well, that's Gog and Magog, okay? So, they ignited the sealed Bible, right? They turned back to what they thought was the teaching of Jesus, as close as they could get. Still had a lot of Roman influence in it, but it was enough to start increasing their, start regaining their power. See? And they became very powerful. It says they would go and cover the whole earth, but they've deceived the whole earth, deceive everybody in the process. One of the deceptions is the fact about the millennia, because they telling you chapter 20 is yet future. No, that's past. That's European history. If you know anything about European history, you can follow it, right? The collapse of the Roman Empire, the rise of Islam, that threw the Europeans into the Dark Ages for 1,000 years. It's all there. Then it would come out after 1,000 years and cover the whole world. Exactly what happened. And at the end, they would take and circle the people that threw them in the pit to begin with, lock them up, the holy city, and they would bring fire out of heaven. That's those hellfire missiles, right? That's coming down the heads of the people in the Middle East. The sky is dark with those hellfire missiles, right? And said, bring fire of sky in the sight of men, and then they will be destroyed. And that's about to happen. Anyway, we'll get there in a few minutes. And that's when the Abrahamic covenant kicks in. Because it says, if you read the Abrahamic covenant, it says your seed will be a stranger in a foreign land for 400 years. See, that's when they dragged us over here. Because they didn't know they was over here then. See, they dragged us over here. That kicks in the Abrahamic covenant. See, these things come together. Gog and Magog escape from, remember, they escape out of the abyss. See, because the Islamic Empire could no longer hold them anymore. Their power had waned, right? Was not just waned, it was collapsing. And they haven't gained it over 500 years. Because it's still not true to Prophet Muhammad's. They tell you they're not true to Prophet Muhammad's teachings. Because first they are the jinn. See, because they were supposed to submit to Adam. This is Adam here. This Adam here is Adam and Eve. They were supposed to submit to Adam, and they refused. And the Sunni Arabs are the only nation on the world, planet, that refuse to submit, right, to the rule of Gog and Magog. They want anything to do with it. Well, I mean, I sympathize with them to some degree, because, I mean, why would you want to submit to somebody that's made mention and shed blood? But that was their command. They didn't do it, and we did. See, so that happened. That process began. Both kicked in. The rise of Gog and Magog and the Abrahamic covenant kicked in at the same time. About possibly 500 years ago. See, and also the rise of the demons, because they created demons all over the planet. We're not the only one plagued by demons. They went raping all over the place. And a demon is someone someone that has a devil father, and a mother is not a devil. That's a demon. Okay, so they got demons all over the planet. So you got the rise of demons also. See, I mean, you got millions and millions and millions of demons. You got 17 million demons right here in America alone. So you got billions of demons all over the planet. So now you got the planet engulfed in, right, ruled by devils and plagued by demons. Ruled by devils and plagued by demons. That's the nature of it. See? And then you got the jinn. They're not invisible. These things, they tell you this world is invisible. No, it's not invisible. Right? The demon, we know what the devils are. Elijah Muhammad told us who the devils were. Farrakhan said, no, they're not the devils. See? The demons, you never knew who the demons was until I told you. The demons, they're all over the place. If they got a Caucasian father, right, and they're not a Caucasian mother, they're a demon. And we have half our population here with demons through rape. Because when they broke out of Europe, they broke out of that shithole, right? That's what it was. And they turned the rest of the world into shit. Because that's what they did there. Because that's what they do, they're shit makers. And they came out, and they didn't bring their women with them. They came and raped all over the place. You see, all over the world, you see, go to Hawaii, you go to South America, all these places, all these people light, they were darker than me when Europeans came over here. They didn't bring their women, they came raping. So now you see, you go down to Mexico, a place like that there, you see almost people almost white as they are. Even in the Middle East. That wasn't the case 500 years ago. That's one of the reasons why they don't want to show you any pictures of Prophet Muhammad. There's people who knew what Prophet Muhammad looked like. How can they don't give you they don't want to draw a picture of him? They still could get you a description, couldn't they? Couldn't they have given you a description? They give you some half-ass description, right? Description, right? Okay, anyway. So the rise, right? The re-rise of the devils, the resurrection of the devils, if you wish, 500 years ago, the demon plague, right? And the Abrahamic covenant, right? we was the victim of. See? Because I'm not saying Abraham would come and victimize us. What I'm saying is that we were the ones that fell victim to the rise of the resurrection of the devils and the demon plague. See, 500 years ago. That's what chapter 20 is telling you. See, now, part of the reason why we fell in that situation, because most of us were quasi-Sunnis on the northwest coast of Africa. See? So we had teachings before. See, a lot of us had been Christians under the Pope. See, we fell into that, a lot of us. And then came Prophet Muhammad, and then they converted over to Islam. And so they fell in the same trap that Arabs did. They start now all this mysticism, all that kind of stuff, right? Ritualistic stuff. So we were suffering energy deprivation, right? But not to the extent. In other words, we suffer energy deprivation, right? But not to the extent that we are now. Well, let me put that another way. We suffer energy deprivation, but we still, right, had not lost total control of ourselves. I put it that way. See? So, in that case, because what Prophet Muhammad gave us was able to use the energy that we had efficiently. That's why we hadn't lost control of ourselves, because we was using that energy efficiently. But then we started falling away with that Sunnism stuff and everything. We started losing it. So then we just lost total control of ourselves. We fell. See? Because the Sabbath was actually given to us. Most of those things you see there was actually given to us. And what's the purpose of it? The Sabbath is to conserve your energy. In other words, you got 7 days of energy, but you take and put in 6 days, 1 day is rest. So that way, the 6 days you have to be stronger. Your energy can use more efficiently. Those type of things was what we were doing. And then we went to Sunnism where we got to stop doing those type of things, right? Which actually didn't help us. I'm not going to go too deep in that right now because that's another story altogether. But anyway, the bottom line is that just like the Arabs fell, we fell also. Because most of us were Sunnis too. The Moors, who do you think they were? They were Sunnis. They was controlling the European countries that had already fallen during this 1,000 years. See? So we was able to have some control over them. Anyway, in southern Italy. Anyway, we lost control. So therefore, Europeans, we had no power. They just came guys. We couldn't resist them. We couldn't resist them. We had no power to resist them. We barely had enough energy to maintain ourselves. And we wasn't using that properly. We wasn't focusing it like we was told to. So we started following Sunnism, right? And because like I said, they took and they fell away. They're not following Prophet Muhammad's teaching. It says in Hadith, it says he would know them, they would know him. He said, I think it's 6/7 of his ummah is hell bound. Well, that's another story altogether, brothers and sisters. At any rate, that's what's going on 500 years ago, the Abrahamic covenant. And that says that for 40 years, right? And it started in 1690, the covenant kicked in 1619, but we actually were drug in 1555. But it took 64 years, right, to turn us into a slave. Because said the covenant talks about us serving them, enslaved by them. See, that's what the covenant's talking about. See, so that didn't occur to 1619. Now in Farrakhan, he tried to distort it to make it say 1555 because he got busted. Because how come he didn't figure out 1619? Elijah Muhammad said that the enslavement didn't start in 1619. He said it took 64 years to prepare us. He said, no, it started in 1555 because if you follow that way Elijah Muhammad said, and follow what Exodus says, 1619 to 2019, but 400 years. 220 would be a plague that would kill the firstborn, which is elderly. That's what's happened right on time. But he didn't see that. He claims he's this great prophet. He didn't see it. So they, oh no, you got to go back 50, 55. It's a total lie. Anyone just go and see what Elijah Muhammad taught, or go read, and you know that Farrakhan's a big liar because he couldn't explain how come he didn't see that coming. And I did. See, it's easy. 1619 to 2019, 400 years, and then 2020 be a plague that kill the firstborn. That means the elderly. That's the sealed version. The unsealed version gives you more information about that, what that means. So anyway, that covers Gog and Magog, right? They have control of the world. They're the two horns of the ram that you see in Daniel, right? See, and the Abrahamic covenant. So we are the seed of Abraham that covenant applies to. So we're gonna move into part 3. But I want you to understand that's chapter 20 of the Revelations, called the AL-INJIL. Gog and Magog escape out of the abyss, cover the whole world, right? They enslaved us. See, we were supposed to submit to them, which we did, as it says in the Quran, to told the angels. See, the angels we're the angels. See, you know, everything's invisible. We know who the jinn are, we know who the angels are, we know who the demons are, we know the devil. Everything to us is visible. You out there, you're blind, you want to stay blind, that's your business. There's light switches all over the place to tell you. So I just explained to you all these, who everyone is. We know, who study angels, know who everyone is. There's nothing invisible to us except mathematics, but we know the evidence of mathematics. You can't see mathematics, but the evidence of it. Okay, so I hope you understand that. See, so 40 years was up in 2019, right? 2020 is a plague that started the plague. We're in the process right now, right? And that's going to lead to other events. So we're going to stop right here, and we're going to move into part 3. Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum. Part 3. Abomination, Desolation, December 15th, 2021. Okay, we covered 2 parts. We covered the Bible, right? The guidance that we'll give to Adam. We covered Gog and Magog, Adam and Eve, America and Britain. And now we're going to talk about 3. We're going to talk about, right, the rise of Antichrist. See, so we know who the devils are. We know who the demons are. See, we're ruled by devils. We're plagued by demons, right? See, and we're resisted by the jinn. See, we're the Europeans, right? That's what they refer to as the devils, right? The demons, that's what the Bible refers to as the chaff, that the seed that they sowed amongst the wheat, right? That's the demons. They're plaguing the whole planet, right? So we're plagued by demons, ruled by devils, right? Resisted by the jinn. That's the Sunni Arabs, right? The angels are the ones that submitted. That's right. That's us here, the true seed of Abraham, right? Half of our nation, or half of the blacks in America, are demons. So everybody's plagued by demons. We got the worst case, right? And so I talk about the devils, the demons, the jinn, right? The angels, right? And then we got the Antichrist, Satan. See? And they say he's the one that's ruling the whole world. That's what Jesus said. He's the one that's ruling this whole affair. See? Okay? So, we're in the process, we're in Abrahamic covenant, which I said come to end in 2019, but part of the covenant was that God would come and raise up a messenger. He would come and remind us of the covenant, and then he would raise a messenger to constantly, to prepare us. Stop here, see? Prepare us to receive the messenger of the covenant that would take us home. See, that would be the story of Exodus. God would come, he'd raise up Moses, right? Moses would be the reminder for 40-some years. Then he would turn it over to Aaron after Moses depart. Aaron would deceive the people, confuse the people, right? Get all the people that listen to him killed. And then it would turn to Joshua, which is another name for Jesus. Joshua is Jesus in Hebrew, and the way you say Jesus in Greek is Joshua. I'm betting that backwards. The way you say Jesus is okay, and the Messiah, right? Put it that way. The Messiah, the way you say it in Greek, right, would be Jesus. I say in Hebrew would be Joshua. Put it that way. Okay, so the God would come, raise up Elijah or Moses. In his absence, after 40 years, his absence, we'd have Aaron that have us walk through the wilderness for some years, deceiving, ripping off. According to Malachi, he robbed the nation. It says, can a man rob God? I was talking to him. He said he robbed the whole nation of tithes and offerings, which money was supposed to go to develop the nation. He was using it for himself. And that's exactly what's going on. And then Joshua would come and get rid of them at the time of war and dispatch them, and then prepare the people to go home. He'd be the one that lead them home. He'll be a warrior priest. He'll be the high priest and warrior priest, right? Okay. So this occurred, that's the story. This occurred back in the 1920s. Master Muhammad showed up as he promised, right? He doesn't suffer energy deprivation because he said he has to buy a special body, he had to be prepared because his father's original, but his mother's Caucasian, so he doesn't suffer energy deprivation. So and he knows the supreme wisdom, so he knows how to focus all his power. So he has great power, right? Doesn't have to sleep anything because he knows the mathematics, the 5 fundamental principles of Islam, and he practices them 100%. He's like the walking, talking Quran. So he comes, he raised up Elijah, right? Okay, now Elijah, he's from the 30s on, and he goes for about 40 years. But during this time, see, now I need to backtrack a little bit here. Now, when I said that they was given the Bible, see, at that time, see, I kind of like went past that too quick, I think, because the whole idea is that the Europeans, see, in other words, the people that call themselves Jews, they were claiming that they, see, because you had okay, they was given so-called New Testament. There was scripture given before that, called the Old Testament. And the Jews had that. See, I didn't go back that far because chapter 20 starts at the point when they get that Bible. It doesn't go back to when they received the Old Testament, so-called Old Testament. Well, the people that call themselves Jews, they received that. And what they did, they didn't obey it, so they lost power. So at the time that Jesus came on the scene, they had no power. The Roman Empire was ruling everybody. They had no power. So they took that, the Europeans, right, Gog and Magog, they took that to say, right, well, not only them, but, well, we believe it, we'll go with them. I don't want to get too much detail here. But the whole idea is that Gog and Magog took their authority from their saying that they are the inheritors. See, because they say that the people that call themselves Jews, they were supposed to be the ones that inherit everything. They're supposed to be the people of God. They lost their power because they didn't obey that scripture they was given, so-called Old Testament. So they failed. They lost their power. So they said, the Europeans said, well, power is transferred from them over to them. So they're the spiritual seed of Abraham. Because the other ones, they was masquerade even back then as the seed of Abraham. But Jesus said, you're not. See, Jesus exposed him. He said, no, you're not the seed of Abraham. I've got a lot more detail than I expect to get in here. But they was masquerading as the seed of Abraham. And reading the scripture, Jesus said, no, you are not the seed of Abraham. He said, your father's the devil. So he told them, no, you are not the seed of Abraham. See? So he said that's when they applied to kill him. Because they was masquerading around. He said they weren't. And they had lost their power because they wasn't following the so-called Old Testament, called the Torah. They wasn't following it, so they lost their power. See, in other words, these testaments show you how to take and get your power and how to control it and maintain it. That's why you're giving these scriptures. So they was given the scripture before the New Testament, right? Before what Jesus had, they was given, and they fell for power because they didn't obey it. So that's how the Romans was able to control them and the Europeans. Okay? The ones that presently call themselves Catholics or Christians, whatever. So that's how the Romans was able to rule. See? So basically you might say the Romans were Europeans. See, I'm kind of like I'm trying to say a lot with a little bit, but just a little bit. So I hope you understand, because let me just say it this way. You got the Europeans, and you got those people that call themselves Jews. They all really are the same nation. But you have these groups that call, that's why it get confusing. Because when I say Europeans, you think, well, no, they're Europeans also. See? But they're a sect that call themselves the special ones, the chosen ones. So they was first given the scripture. They came out of the caves, they were the first one given the scripture. See? And they followed it. So they gained power over the rest of Europeans. But then they didn't obey it, they lost it. So Europeans gained control back over them under the Roman Empire because they lost it, right? And then you had a new group of Europeans that said they following Jesus, and some of them was from those called of Jews, right? Because a lot of so-called disciples were, and they took and started gaining power that the so-called Jews had lost because they started following the scripture that Jesus gave them, and so they was able to overcome all the other Europeans. Maybe that's a better way of saying it. See, and so. But under authority of the Pope. So I told you about that transition. That went on for 500 years until they lost their power, worshiping idols and all that kind of stuff, and then rise of the Islamic Empire. Then they went 5,000 years, but then they started losing their power again because they started deviating from Prophet Muhammad's teachings. So therefore, right, when the Protestants came along, they start trying to go back to what they thought the original teachings was of Jesus, and they start gaining power. That's Gog and Magog, right? And they've been ruling for the last 500 years. Now they're losing power. We'll talk about that in a minute. So, when Master Prophet Muhammad came on the scene right, he raised up Elijah, right? So Elijah started talking about, because see, all these people pretending, the Jews claim they the true seed of Abraham. The Europeans were saying, the ones that weren't part of the Jewish ones, they saying, because the Jews were saying, remember, they're all Europeans too. They said they was the chosen because they followed Moses, right? Then Jesus said, after Jesus called them out, then they said, well, the Europeans said, no, we're the spiritual seed. So we're the inheritors. And so I gave them authority to do all the stuff they did. They called this the promised land, and we're Shem, we're born to be slaves, all that kind of stuff. So it was justified. So they didn't think anything was doing wrong. So they thought they was following the New Testament. They thought they was following the Bible. See? So no, we was out of the picture, because the claimants of the seed of Abraham was all Europeans, the Jewish Europeans and the regular Europeans, not the Christian Europeans, or the Catholic Europeans. But then the Protestant Europeans came on the scene, right? Like I said, 500 years ago, that's Gog and Magog. They're the Protestant Europeans, right? So they gained power because the other ones lost their power because they wasn't following, right? So these was so-called pilgrims, and remember they came over because they was running away from religious persecution, all that kind of stuff, right? So they was like strict Christians, strict adherence to what Jesus was teaching. At least that's what they were saying, right? He was very, what they call nowadays extremists, right? So they gained power, Gog and Magog, enough power to control everybody. So when Elijah Muhammad came and says, no, both y'all are wrong. We are true seed of Abraham, and he gave the facts. I mean, the proof was there. The body was laying right there on the floor. How can you say you didn't murder him? He's right in your house on your floor, right? And you walking all over him. That was a problem. That was a major problem. Because we had to prove the evidence, and they had none. See, they had counterfeit money, and then we show up with the real money. See, because you can't tell, you don't know money. See, well, counterfeit looks okay, right? Then you see the real thing. Oh, and now you know it's counterfeit. So we the real deal. So that was a problem. Because if we the true seed of Abraham, who are they? That means they murderers. This is what Jesus said they were. Not only was they saying the Jews was, they said, Jesus said their father was the devil, but that means all the Europeans, that include all of them. And they couldn't have that because they've been walking around like gods and angels and they control everything and we superior, we, and all this stuff. And free conscience because, hey, enslaving us was no problem. They were doing God's will. Taking this land was no problem because this was a promised land. Killing all these damn savages. They were just God's way. See? But now, this ugly person that he thought he was beautiful runs into a mirror and bam. They saw it and said, hey, wait, hold it. Breaks. Right? Full stop. So then they had to go back and look at this thing and try to figure out how to get out of this thing, right? Because we had the proof. And they've been lying, remember, deceiving the whole world. So then, in 1948, because remember, at that point, the Europeans were after each other. They was fighting each other, and they were about to eliminate the Jews, the Europeans. They was about to eliminate them. They was burning them up. They called the final solution. They was about to eliminate all of them, right? And they said, oh, wait a minute. Now we got a true claim in here. We got the real, right? The real inheritor here, right? We got the real seed. See? The thoroughbred. And we all fake. We got to do something about that. So then they start, the people that was burned up in the ovens a few days ago, now they love them. See? Now the ass is made out of honey pots and everybody's eating the honey. So all of a sudden now they love them. Overnight, because they hate him in this country as much as hate him all over the world. Overnight they start loving him. So then no. Because remember, they were saying they was Christ killers. They wasn't seed of Abraham. Jesus said you wasn't, right? And you lost the covenant. It's not applied to you anymore. But now it does apply. Now they are the true seed of Abraham. Overnight, after thousands of years overnight, that changed. So now all of a sudden they set false Israel. And they spend all kinds of money. That's a 666, right? That you see. That's what 666 is all about. See? That's 666 is all about. We'll talk about that in a minute. See? So they set that up. And anybody that doesn't go along with that false Israel, that they're the real thing and oppose them and oppose that, they get sanctioned. They were not able to buy or sell. That's what chapter 13 is all about. 666 dollars, you're going to get some mark. That's it. Because only country on the planet that does that is America, followed by Britain. Only one that does sanctions. If you don't do it, if you don't go along with false Israel, you get sanctioned. If you don't do it, tell you get sanctioned. You're going to buy or sell anything. That's what that 666 is all about in chapter 13. There's three of them together. That's America, Britain, and false. That's the three that's right there. Those are three together. That's what 666 is all about. So don't let anybody fool you. Understand? That's what's going on with that. See? So they set that up. See? That's why I call it they said that's the Antichrist. But see, their rise in the West, their rise in the East was supposed to symbolize the birth of Suleiman, who is the Christ. See? They're the star that rise in the East. Remember the Star of David, right? They're the star that rise in the East. But it would signal the conception of Suleiman, who would be, because if a star rose in the east, that means he would be in the west. So it would signify, herald, the conception of the Christ in the west. So they would both come and exist at the same time. That's why I call it Christ and Antichrist. That's the mathematics of it. So when you want to find out who the Christ is, who Suleiman is, that's Suleiman, son of man comes from Suleiman. It's a play on words. So Su-Oman, son, Su is soul. In Italian, I believe, and in Spanish. Su-Oman, son of man. That's where it comes from. So both would be conceived at the same time. So when you find Suleiman, you found that he was conceived right around April 1948. So his birthday would be around January 1949. He'd be the same age as false Israel. That's what that's all about. Okay, bouncers, I think I covered that pretty clearly. See what that's all about. So we're going to stop it here and move on to 4. Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum. Abomination of Desolation, part 4. Okay, we talk about the Bible, history of Europe, chapter 20 of Revelations, Gog and Magog, right? And we're talking about the demons, the jinn, the devils, right? The Antichrist. Okay, now in this section right here, we're going to talk about the period of time of the Antichrist. Because the mathematics behind that is, it's really not that complicated, but I'm not going to go into that right here. See, mathematics of the Antichrist. But the thing is that if you hit zero, and at that point, right, our sentence of the energy deprivation was over. So we said zero. We didn't have enough. We had just enough energy to maintain ourselves, but not enough for power. Just enough internal energy to maintain ourselves, but no external energy. Because you have to, power comes from external energy. Like, after you paid all your bills and expenses was, what they call disposable income. See, so that can become power if you use it, right? If you just abuse it, then there's nothing. So that time we're at zero. So when you're at zero, if you want to produce a 10, you got to produce a negative 10 to balance out, because you have to balance out to zero. That's what Antichrist is all about. See, so no more energy deprivation. That's when the Suleiman will be conceived, right? And the more powerful you are, the greater your Antichrist will be. So all of us have Antichrist to some extent at this point in time. See, it could be one person. So for instance, say you're 12, then you can have 12 Antichrists. Each one of them are 1. Or you can have 2, each one of them are 6. Or you can have 3, each one of them are 4. If you're 1,000, you can have your Antichrist can be 1,000. Or it can be 1,000 different people. Or a person that has a power of 1,000. That's what it comes down to. So it says Suleiman, right? Because he who he is, right? His Antichrist will be a whole nation. So the whole nation over there. See? Because the Antichrist opposes everything you do, because they neutralize everything you do, because it always has to come back to zero. But as the universe is contracting, we get more and more energy. That means that it moves off of 0 to 1, positive 2, positive 3, positive 4. So you're becoming stronger, and Antichrist becomes weaker. So that's been going on for 72 years. See? So Suleiman is getting stronger, false Israel is getting weaker. See? Until the point where he has enough power to break them. So that's what's going on here. But during this period of time, right, after Elijah Muhammad exposed them, it caused them to make that adjustment, and other adjustments we have to talk about, like the ones about the Mongols and those type of things. But anyway, then Elijah departs. See? And then we got this period of time, right? See? Where demons take over. See, he was plagued by demons even during Elijah's time, like Muhammad's time. He didn't explain to what a demon was. Whether he knew or not, he didn't explain what demons were. See? No, he knew because he had to know, because it says he recognized there was demons because he saw that there was chaff and wheat mixed together. But he was told, do not try to separate the chaff, because he said, you're not wise enough to do it. They said Suleiman would do it. So he says, what should I do? Because he told him, hey, there's chaff here. So he recognized there were demons. There's no minister to both of them. But when the harvest time come, when Suleiman's time come, he would separate the chaff out and burn them up. So during this period of time, right, they're doing everything they can to prove that false Israel is true Israel. And everything they can to make sure that we never come to that knowledge that Elijah Muhammad was telling us, or we reject it, right? Or it's ridiculed. And for that purpose, right, they have to set up the demons to do their job. Because remember, the demons are them. They've got our tone, they look like us, walk like us, talk like us, but they're not us. Like they say, they're skin folk, but they ain't kinfolk. And they once lived in master's house back in chain slavery because they was master's children. They kept us in the fields. They would never let us in the house because they couldn't trust us. They could trust their own children. The only problem, beef their children had was they wanted to be treated like the rest of master's children. 'Cause remember, the demons are them. They're skin folk, but they ain't kinfolk. And they was like, they once lived in master's house back in chain slavery because they was master's children. They kept us in the fields. They would never let us in the house because they couldn't trust us. They could trust their own children. The only problem, beef their children had was they wanted to be treated like the rest of So during this particular time, the demons are hard at work to convince us that we're not true seed Abraham, that we should stay here and that we really want to be slaves, and so they won't come out and say it that way. And it tells us that a chief demon would actually sit in Elijah Muhammad's seat. That's Farrakhan. See? His job, because he's working for not only for the devils, but for the jinn also. Because remember, the jinn are sitting on our land. They claim the land is theirs. That's our land. So he's working for them also, Sunnis. So he claims he's mentioned the covenant. He does not talk about the covenant. When he does talk about it to the extent he doesn't mention the covenant. He doesn't mention that we're going back home. He doesn't mention that we're going to stay here. He's going to convert the devils, right? He's going to save America, right? Because he's a demon himself. He admits his father's the devil. We have the pictures. His father's the devil. He's a demon himself. And it says that's Aaron. It says only attribute Aaron had was he was a spokesman. That's the only attribute both the Quran and the Bible associates with him, attributes to him. So he's not known to be wise or knowledgeable. He was just supposed to be like a bullhorn for Elijah Muhammad. So a bullhorn doesn't have any knowledge or wisdom. It just says whatever, it just repeats whatever is spoken to it. But in absent Elijah Muhammad, right? Because he was Elijah Muhammad's spokesman, in absent Elijah Muhammad, right? Then he was been working for his master devils. And he's telling us we need to stay here. We ain't going nowhere. See? So in other words, he made God a liar. He's making fraud Elijah Muhammad a liar, and said their works was in vain. Because he don't. So it tells us we ain't. So in other words, he tells us we're not going anywhere. That means we don't think we have any choice. So if that's the case, then we might as well make the best of America, right? So we don't have. So in other words, we never attain power because we've given our energy to massa. We're not controlling. We don't have any power because the energy we'd have to take and use energy like Elijah Muhammad. He taught you to use energy for yourself, so you had power under Elijah Muhammad. But now you're giving energy to the master to build his vision. And that's what Farrakhan is doing. That's his job. He's being paid by the Sunnis because Sunnis don't want you talking about going back home because they know there's going to be a struggle because they know that's our land. They didn't want souls in slavery to begin with. They betrayed us. That's the story of Joseph. His brothers betrayed him. And so during this particular period of time, it says that he would make war with the saints. That means FNOI. And he would overcome them. That's what he's done. See? And during that time, that would be Suleiman would come on the scene and break the 7 seals. See? During that period of time. That'd be rise, right? Because he beginning to rise at his birth, actually. Right? Because remember, he's the one that will conceive at the same time false Israel. He's the Christ, and false Israel Antichrist. But Farrakhan claimed he's the Christ. It tells you about the wolves in sheep clothing. They're still wolves, they just look like sheep. That's what that's all about. The scriptures tell you if anybody comes and teach you any other gospel other than what you received by Elijah, right? He says, don't listen to them. And the Quran says, right, we give you a revelation that bears witness to what you already have, and then you despise it. You don't want it. Because nothing I say contradicts what Elijah Muhammad said. He didn't know it. He didn't know. He says he didn't know everything. The lesson says that he didn't know it all. So just because he knows something, that doesn't mean it's a contradiction. He didn't know. He taught based on what he knew. But on the fundamental points, there's no disagreement at all. None. On the fundamental points, there is no disagreement whatsoever. But he has understanding. But it says that his understanding will be limited. He's John in the Bible. He refused to baptize Jesus. He said, I'm not worthy to baptize you. But Jesus said, well, you have to do it. See? Because that gets into the mathematics of the 5 fundamental principles of Islam, because Suleiman had to know that so he could focus his power. Because Elijah Muhammad, John, was basically his mother that taught him how to focus his power. And he was able to use that focus by applying it listened to his mother, Elijah Muhammad, applying it, he was able to gain the power to break the 7 seals. You got to put these things together, bro. So that's why he said, no, you got to baptize me. Jesus told John, no, you got to do it. I need this. John said, no, man, no, Jesus, no, you got to do it. So when he did it, right, and Jesus, because Jesus didn't want to have anything to do with John's followers. See? They are the Levites. Again, we explain who everybody is. They're the Levites. They're not the true seed of Abraham, they're Levites. So now you know who the Levites are. You know who the jinn are. You know who the angels are. You know we didn't talk about the dragon. See? Dragon, well, they're the jinn. Okay. So that's what happens there. So then he begins his ministry, and his ministry is primarily against the demons first. Because we're plagued by demons. That's what it says in Mark. We're plagued by demons. See, they're taking over the NOI, and they're all over the place. They're your sports figures, your famous people, rich and famous, Oprah, Denzel, Jay-Z, you know, rich and famous, all these people, you know, your politicians, you know, all these people, see? And they hate you, just like they hate you back in the field. But they can't take mass and say, you can't live off of me. Because when they took us out of the plantation, they said, what are we going to do, master? Right? What are we going to do? So they said, you ain't going to live off us. You can live off them Negroes over there, of us. And that's what they've been doing. Sucking our blood. Look at places they so-called rule these cities and everything. That's not helping us. Not that we need the help, because they destroyed everything Elijah did. That's what Farrakhan is going to destroy. Everything Elijah did, destroy it all. Now he's talking about he's following Elijah. No, he's not. He's saying Elijah's song, but he ain't giving me Elijah's lyrics. Message black and all that stuff, that's Elijah's song. They ain't Elijah Muhammad's lyrics. He's not teaching devils ain't devils anymore and so forth like that. We ain't going anywhere, which makes the whole scripture a lie. And it says it right there. He never reads that part of it. He reads Abraham and Covenant, the first 3 verses. He doesn't read the part about we're going to return home. Because Sunnis don't like that. Now they tell you to go and worship at the Sunni. Elijah Muhammad wouldn't even allow them in his temples. Hope you understand that, brothers and sisters. See? That's what's been going on since Elijah left. See? That's the lead up, right, to the end. Because Suleiman will break the 7 seals. And now we see everything coming into place right now, falling into place. Right? Because it says that at the time of the end, Gog and Magog would circle the Holy See, talking about the Middle East. Those two, they bottled them up in the pit, in the abyss, or in Europe for 1,000 years, and then hellfire missiles would come down out of heaven upon their heads, and then they would be destroyed. And we're at that point right now. See? So we already talked about 1619 to 2019, then the plagues Valentine, right? We didn't go into the Shia too much. We're going to talk about that in a minute, right? We see false Israel. They're getting weaker, but they think they're getting stronger. They don't know. We know about the demons. They full, and they said before 42 years of demons. Okay, that's over since 19. So all these dates are coming into focus. See? So all these people are against us. False Israel set up to oppose us. God and Magog have been opposing us physically for over 40 years. False Israel have been opposing us identity theft. The jinn has been opposing us, stole our land, and lying to us and doing everything they can to deceive us to make sure we never return. They got the demons. They got the demons doing their bidding for them. And right, and then the demons, right? We're plagued by them daily. If it says half of the black folks in America are demons, that means almost all black folks you know are demons. All the ones you see on TV, any public place, those are all demons. Telling you love master, love America, throwing you in jail, long sentences, all this so-called crime bill and all that kind of stuff. So we got enemies everywhere. The whole world's against us. The whole world's against us. Because we take power, not only, right, that we rule, but there's going to be some vengeance taken. That's what it says. It says those are days of vengeance. What they've done, that's consequence. They call it vengeance. It's really consequence. The consequence of everything, because we represent that consequence, because they did to us, all the nations. So that's what I'm trying to build to, so you identify who everybody is and where we are right now, because our resurrection, right now, the problem we have right now is self-imposed energy deprivation, because they're teaching us to use our energy, to fuse it, to play with it, to abuse it. So therefore, it's not being used as power. We have enough energy to have power. We don't have power because that energy is being distracted, being used, being abused, because being taught, right, as Master Farmer said, eat the wrong food. We taught to apply energy wrongly, so therefore we're not applying it as power. Because we had to follow the 5 fundamental principles of Islam, then it will be turned into power. And that's what Suleiman's job is to do. See? So they're doing everything to make sure we don't, and that we don't unify. Because if we focus our energy, become power, that we unify, it's all over. Because we're the ones that's causing the war of Armageddon, because we're pulling, when you pull things, in other words, it's like a rubber band, right? You're pulling it, but it resists. So coming together, the whole world is resisting our unity. They're doing everything to prevent it. Demons are, the devils are, the jinn are, the Antichrist. Everybody's trying to keep us from coming together. We come together, that causes war. Because the resistance is so great. War is just resistance. A fight is resistance. A war is strong resistance. In other words, there's a degree of the resistance. The greater resistance, right? That means, the greater the violence. So now at some point, it's become war. So you always see all the signs right now. What's all the going stuff in America right now? You got all the signs there. So we'll talk about that in a minute. So let's move on to final segment 5. Okay, right. Part 5. Part 5. Assalamu alaikum. Okay. Now we're going to get into the heart of it. Abomination of desolation. Now we're told, but most of our people are not aware of it, about abomination of desolation. That is the trigger that you have to watch for. Because it says when you see it, you have to flee. But you have to recognize it to flee. Because if you don't flee, you're dead. Because they said you can't go back in your house. You can't even go back in your house. When you see it, wherever you got to flee. You can't go back to warn, you can't get your baby, you can't go back to anything, you have to flee. That means you're in trouble. That could be talking about police or the army, right? Because they got to come in. You got time to prepare. You got time to get out of town because they're coming, right? That got to be the people right around you. You're in danger. You're in danger right now. You just don't know it because your enemy's all around. You loving these devils. They won't love you. They hate you. See? And it says once the abomination of desolation takes place, they're going to kill you openly. So where's the abomination of desolation? That's what all is boiling down to, because that's the event that triggers everything. Now remember I said that they set them up in 1948, false Israel. The whole idea is they're supposed to be the seed of Abraham. But when you read the whole thing that Farrakhan doesn't read, what does that mean? That means once they return, they will never be uprooted. They'll be protected by God. But it says when they return, all the nations will come against them. Remember I talked about resistance? They said all the nations will resist their coming together and they would destroy them. They would try to, and that's when God would return and go to war, and that'd be war of Armageddon. So everybody's anticipating that because you see what's going on in the Middle East right now, because they're talking about going to war. They already say they're at war with each other right now. False Israel, right? And Iran. And then other things, we talk about Russia and China. I'm not going to get into all that here. But the point is that everybody knows that's paying attention that there's a war on the horizon very soon. And they even all the so-called Christian preachers, not the black ones, but a lot of them on the internet telling you, yeah, this is the war. This is the one they're talking about, the final war, war Armageddon. So everybody recognizes that's paying attention to it. See? So they're saying that's them. And the whole idea is that they can't be destroyed because once they return, God's going to come and fight for them, right? And that's going to get rid of everybody, and then that's going to be peace on the earth. But they cannot be uprooted. See, remember that point. Once they return, then God's going to come and take and fight for them and protect them, and they cannot be destroyed. They cannot be destroyed. That's the whole point. Once they go return, they cannot be destroyed. That's one of the reasons why America spent all this money, and Britain too, all this money for all these 70-some years to make sure that they protect it. See, but they've been protected by Persia, which is really America. See, you got to understand Daniel's a sealed book. They're talking about Persia, actually talking about America. So they protected them, right, for all this time because to fill that prophecy. Otherwise, false Israel would have been gone a long time ago. See, because that prophecy is not. So America's doing everything they can to make sure they don't get destroyed because that's what prophecy says. So you understand that. That's what the whole thing rests on. The fact that they returned, that they're the true seed of Abraham. And the proof that they're the true seed of Abraham, the proof that they are the true seed of Abraham is that they have returned and they cannot be destroyed no matter what. And that's what that's what the whole thing is based on. That's what this war of Armageddon, all that is coming right down to that. See? Because they're the ones that's holding up our unity. They're like a counter gear that's about to be taken out. When it's taken out, then the Suleiman would have it's a two-step effort. See, because Master Muhammad and Suleiman work together. That's the Jesus and the Mahdi talking about the Quran working together, right? So he's pulling them together, right? But Master Muhammad's gonna give him a little extra oof by knocking out the counter gear, false Israel, that's slowing it down. It's like, you got a headwind. If you're moving 25 miles an hour, we got 10-mile headwind, you're only moving 15. If you're moving at 10 miles an hour, then you're not moving 25. So Suleiman is able to get him up to 50 miles an hour, so to speak, right? See, they need to go 75, but he got up to 50 because he got 25-mile headwind. That's false Israel. Master Muhammad's going to move that out. Now we're up to 75, and 75 is enough to get us home. Hope you understand a very simplistic way of explaining it. See? So Master Muhammad's going to make that move. See? That's the war. Because got to take them down. But they can't be taken down. That's the whole point. They cannot be taken down because they're the true seed of Abraham according to them. If they are taken down, that's the abomination of desolation. Because first they're abomination. Why are they abomination? Because they pretend to be holy, they pretend to be the seed of Abraham, and they're not. Desolation, right, is that this total destruction is about to take place. And they are destructive in that area anyways. It has twofold meaning. So when you see that, standing in a place that it should not be, that means they stand over there and they're standing and they shouldn't be there. Because they pretend to be somebody they're not. That's when you see it standing in a place that should not be, that's them. And Master Muhammad, Michael's angels, that's who Master Muhammad is. His angels are the Shia, are going against the dragon's angels, which is the jinn or the house of Sod, right? And Gog and Magog and Antichrist. And so they go to war, but they're going to be defeated. And false Israel is going to be destroyed. That's the abomination of desolation. So when you see it, but they're going to go into siege first. First, America and Britain is about to be kicked out. It's going to happen any day now. They're going to be kicked out. And there's no one to protect false Israel anymore. And they're going to be laid siege to them, as it says in Daniel. That's the point that it says, when you see that, flee. Because not siege going to last long. When you see that, flee. When you recognize that, flee. Leave out of town. Go. Listen to us. We tell you where to go. We tell you what to do. Right? But it says you have to flee. But you have to know, but you have to recognize it. Because if you don't recognize, you cause, hey man, too late. You can't go Google it. You have to always know, right, what to look for. And you have to keep your eyes open. That's right. Keep awake. Keep your eyes open. Stay alert. Because if you're in bed sleep and it happens, you're lost. So basically, the way they're talking, you assume it must be happening during daylight because it's happening at night. A lot of people are going to be lost anyway. Because they say on the news, hey man, false Israel on the sea, you sleeping. You won't wake up. Because it said flee immediately. That's the abomination of desolation. Because it says, at that time, he wrath be upon his people. Well, those who are pregnant. It's not talking about, you have to understand the angel about that. It's talking about America and Britain because they have us captive. They're the ones that's pregnant. We're captive nation. America's pregnant with us. See? But they're about to give birth to us. Remember, when they be born overnight, that's when we be born. We be born at that time. Who's giving us birth? America's giving us birth. They're the ones pregnant. Pregnant. Said, woe those who are pregnant. That's America, talking about America. Says that's why he pleads things against. Said, well, the nation be born for them. Because then at that point, remember, at that point, everybody's be trying to, because when they recognize that we're the true seed of Abraham, right? Because once false sisters was taken down, it'll be clear that we're true seed of Abraham. That's why it says flee. Because it's going to take them a millisecond to make that calculation that if false sisters went down, right? Then their claim was false. Our claim is real. That we're the true seed of Abraham. They got to get rid of us immediately. Because it says, the wrath upon these people says, as you had done, so it's be done to you. So who's going to be doing it? So if you got your control of your enemy, you know he's your enemy. You know if he escapes, he's going to kill you. Then you're going to kill him first. So you'd be a fool not to. They're going to get rid of us. They know what that means. They're going to take a millisecond to figure out, oh man, these niggas, they're the real ones. They right next door. They're armed to the teeth in this country anyway. Let's get them. Because they're going to recognize if false Israel goes down. Remember, they get this is Christianity, this is theology. If they go down and they wasn't the real ones, that means we are. That means, who are they then? They're going to recognize who they are. They're the ones that's been the devils. They're the ones that's been the prize president. They're the ones that God, then the plague comes clear. Oh man, that plague is because of the Abrahamic covenant. 1619, 2019, the plague of 2020. That plague is come from God against us. It's because these people here, he's coming for them. Jesus ain't coming to help us. He come to destroy us and to get them. They're going to take a millisecond to come to that calculation. I said flee. Because already at that time, right, they're going to immediately go to war as soon as that happens. And right now, they already have trouble. You see the food shelves getting weaker and weaker, less and less and less. You see all those things happening in the world. You see the demons get more aggravated. The Black Lives Matter, they're all demons. Now they do a snatch and grab and all that kind of crime. It's going to get worse because the demon says it's going to be a demon plague of 5 months, right? After we leave here, 5 months. They're going to be tearing this country apart because we're not going to take them with us. We're going to get rid of them. You understand? You have to understand what. Now, look, you don't have to believe it. Just be aware of it and make everyone you know aware of it. What's the harm in that? What's the harm in letting everybody you know, even if you don't believe it, aware of it? So that crazy person who told me about. Just say that crazy person with that crazy hat was telling me about the Abomination of Desolation. And explain it to them. And they don't have to believe it either. But he said, know about it. Because we're not here to hurt you, brothers and sisters, not our own people. The demons we don't give a damn about. We're here to save you. We know you all messed up. That's the whole thing. We know that. We know you covered with shit. So how in the world we going to talk about, man, you stink? No, because we all covered with shit. All of us. Me too. We're here. We're going to take you out of here and give you a bath. And that's all of it. Because the shit ain't in you. It's on you. The shit's in them. They shit. There's shit that's on us. So if you don't believe it's okay, brothers and sisters, I ain't mad at you. So just go tell everybody that you know about it. Say a crazy man told him about this. So if it don't happen, what have you lost? If you lost anything, if it don't happen? But if it does, it save your life and your family's life. Think about that, brothers and sisters. Abomination of Desolation is going to happen any day now. When that war breaks out, if you're smart and wise, you take off right then, you don't even wait. See? Because you know how the end is going to be. But a lot of people, they're going to stick around, especially those hardcore so-called call themselves Christians, they're going to stick around and see a little further. See? But then when you see false Israel under siege, if you ain't got it by then, you should be gone by then. But if you ain't, right, then you better be packed and gassed up and everything when you see Israel falls actually fall, because then you ain't got, there's no room left. See, the window's closed. See, so you can be prepared to go now. You're prepared to go when the war starts, right? You're prepared to go when you see the war ends and falls under siege, right? See? Those three you can move without, you got room. But if you wait till falls Israel goes down, then you got to flee for your life. Be running for your life. You better be gassed up because you ain't gonna be stopping no gas stations. You better have an extra gas, extra can of gas in your car. You better have everybody with you because you ain't got time to go back in the house and get anything. But then his days of vengeance was terrible. And that's when black folks coming together. That's going to trigger Armageddon. The resistance to that. And that's when we're going to cast out the demons. And then we're going to, those who in the Lamb's Book of Life, right, be taken out of here. Then the Levites, they're going to stick around. That's another story. I'm not going into all that right here. See? But this place will be in, then America and Britain would be at war immediately with Russia and China. You always see that's already building up. I've been saying it for years. You're not going to have any food on the shelves. The people are eating their own children. Children will be gray-headed, like the Quran says, because they can't stay home. But they stay home, they're going to be eating. So they're going to be having child gangs running around, right? Killing people, trying to eat other people. Cannibalism is going to rage in this country. It says women will eat their own children. It says a pregnant woman should give birth alone in silence, all that pain, so she can eat the child that she just gave birth to. And afterbirth, it says right there in the Bible. I'm not making stuff up. That's what you're going to be if you stick around here. You ain't got no sense. You ain't paying attention. And Farrakhan said, "You want to stay here?" He claims, "Oh, he got these food." Okay, the whole country is starving, no food, and you got some food stored up someplace. You gonna cook? And you say you in Georgia and they in Mississippi. You think they gonna smell that far? But everybody's starving. You cooking something? You ain't gonna be cooking the damn thing, and you have it. Otherwise, you are gonna be cooked. Then he gonna be sending food from this so-called farm all the way down to the Muslim communities, right? So everybody's starving up. He got a truck with food going from one city down the road, city to city. Are you serious? They talking about, well, stay home at the time, lock yourself in the house, and during the time of indignation. Really? That's gonna protect you? Locked up alone in your house with no food? You can't cook it if you got any? Yeah? Do you eat your own children? I mean, come on, are you going to keep listening to that fool, that liar? You're putting your life in your hands because he's a liar, he's a thief. He ain't produced a damn thing in 40-some years. He's been eating, sucking your blood. That's what parasites do. Hope you understand, brothers and sisters. The abomination of desolation, that's the whole point. That's what we'll be focused on for the next few weeks until this happens, that war starts. Abomination, desolation. If you know about it, tell people. We ain't mad at you. Tell people. Tell them that crazy man told you about. At least they're familiar with it. Because they don't expect it to happen. But then they see it, oh, damn, somebody said something like this. But at least they know. Because it says millions of our people are going to be lost in this process because they don't have no idea. They never heard of Abrahamic covenant. Tell them about Abrahamic covenant. Just tell them, read that. So you have a choice, brothers and sisters. Hope you understand, brothers and sisters. We're going to leave it there. Hope you understand. Hope you understand, brothers and sisters. Let's see. Assalamu alaikum.